Hey guys, Warlos here. This video is going to be kind of in response to what Wood was talking about, where players should try to engage in a conversation with the game master and try to be a puzzle piece to fit in the game master's overall puzzle that is his campaign. And everything that Wood is saying in this video, I mean, is so spot on, as most everything is with his videos. But what I really want to talk about are some of my experiences with exactly what Wood was talking about, you know. And first, I think I'll talk about a campaign that I'm working on now, because that will best illustrate, I think, exactly what Wood was talking about. So, the first thing I do if I'm about to start a campaign, especially with players that I have not met yet, is I want to get a feel both for the player and the character, So one of the first characters, or the two characters that are the first to enter my game, are husband and wife team, and they're playing a elven sorceress and a dwarven paladin. Now they brought to my attention a really cool concept, whereas the elven sorceress wanted to be an elf queen that was like ostracized or say exiled from her land, and the dwarven paladin would be a dwarven emissary who came to the lands of the elves, and as he stayed there to learn about their culture and to open up more channels of dialogue between the two races, the two kingdoms, great admiration, respect, and love grew in him for the Elven Queen. And so when the Elven Queen Analia was banished, he followed her. And now what was neat about this was that I had initially wrote to them, just give me an idea of what kind of characters you want to play. And they respond back to me. We're thinking about a dwarven paladin and a sorceress type of team. And so I sent them a few details of my world, so they had a little something else to work with. And then they sent me back this really cool, elaborate background. And now originally I was gonna set the beginning of the campaign in the human kingdom, which I name Aethagard, and I was gonna have the protagonist deal with a lot of the factions inside the human kingdom. But similarly, this protagonist, say the arch protagonist, was going to be trying to pit all the kingdoms, not against each other, but try to create threats in each kingdom so that each kingdom becomes isolated from one another. And then he can work on, the overall villain would work on, taking apart each kingdom by kingdom, because they would not be unified. And so I had not really worked anything out for the Elven Society yet, or the Elven Kingdom yet, because that was going to come into play, subsequent to my initial chapters of the campaign. So as a DM, I, in a tune, want to flow with what the characters are going, because I want the characters to be the stars of my campaign. And if they want to play this elf and this dwarf, and they gave me this really cool concept, it's like, I could fit the puzzle to them. They became, pieces to a whole new puzzle that I had not anticipated. And that was really cool. So all I really did was flesh out the elven city of Amaranthian that I was going to flesh out anyhow. And I'll just make a shift. Instead of starting the campaign in Aethagard, I can start it now in Amaranthian. And a lot of cool new plot hooks and ideas came to me from this dialogue between me and the players. So now the same malignant type of evil force that was going to spread his machinations throughout the human kingdom is now going to do this to the elven kingdom. And he I guess led one of the heads of the elven council astray, with the obvious greed, ambition, and power, turns even the most genuinely good person with great intentions into an evil person. And almost what happened with Sauron in Lord of the Rings. He was a white wizard, started out with really good intentions, but he played with a power that was beyond him, and ultimately that power corrupted him, which I think is an amazing universal allegory for greed and power and abuse in the real world. That's why it's such a powerful trope in a role-playing game setting. And so now this NPC turned the Elven Guard against the king, because while the king had made a pact to protect the realm of Los and also all the other kingdoms against the darkness when the time came, this corrupted Elven councilman wants to have Amaranthian close its borders, not let in any refugees, Elven refugees from outside the city, because they could be spies of the enemy, to totally close himself off from not only all the other civilizations and all the other kingdoms, but from their own race. And the queen spoke out against this, and hence, she was exiled, because the king, mystically or, somehow died. He came down with illness and died, so he could no longer stand up for her. And she was going to be, imprisoned. But instead, she fled, and the gates were closed. And now, I changed my whole plot line so that she is out trying to muster forces to get her city back and to help protect the kingdom from the evil threat that's now coming. But she thinks she's alone, but she's not. And now here comes the addition of another player character. He sent a message to me saying he was interested in my game. So I said, that's great. Now what do you feel like playing? He's like, I really want to play a shifter ranger, long-tooth shifter ranger. I'm like, okay, I'll fit that in. And he was really flexible about what he wanted to play. So, I got to make him a big piece of the puzzle now, because now I have this queen and her paladin like bodyguard, and they're going to be integral part of reclaiming her city. She'll make another bastion of light against the dark, and I can tie that in with unifying the elven and the human realms, and now this shifter, even the shifter realm. So the shifter was a ranger who dedicated his life to killing evil demonic type of lycanthropes called the Rar. They're attacking from the north, and he's part of one of these elven refugee bands that attack these malign creatures. And now the war chief, elven war chief, for whom he works for, or whom he pledged his loyalty and his services, wants to get in contact with the player, the elven queen, so he can say that, pledge his loyalty to her, and so all the elven refugees and ranger camps will join on her side. So he's got a quest now to find her. And it was just, you can do things like that in order to make different characters fit into your puzzle. And now, because of this, I'm even more excited about the game than I even could have imagined I would have been. And it's just by opening that dialogue with your players. Just open a good dialogue, let them know some information about your world, and see what they have to bring to the table, because I think a great role-playing game takes players who want to be an active part of the DM's world, and they can engage in a conversation about each other's characters and about each other's backgrounds to create a synergy that will elevate your game up to a higher level. And now they're not just coming into a world which I created and they're being a part of. They're coming into a world now which they're integral powers in that world, and they helped shape that world with their own player background. And now both parties are extremely, I mean, when I say party, I mean myself as a DM and the players as characters are both really excited about playing this game. And now I think that if you do run a game and you don't make the players puzzle pieces to your puzzle, and or if players don't want to be pieces that fit into your puzzle, the game, it will ultimately fail. Why? Well, the characters aren't going to feel any connect to your world. They're going to be autonomous and doing their own thing, and there'll be plots going on which the characters are not directly involved. And after a while, I think they're going to lose interest. And as a DM, you're going to lose focus because they're not going to be doing or wanting to do things that coincide with the events of your world. So, now getting back to what Wood said about being really selective as a DM, you know, he's right on there because, and I hate to say it, but players compared to DMs are the so-called dime a dozen, because just being a DM takes a lot of work, a lot of time, and, you know, a lot of energy, and not a lot of people want to do that. It also takes a total lack of insecurity and the ability to not take yourself really seriously. And I think a lot of people, it's hard for them to take that step to being the DM. And, you know, and if you post a game, you're going to find a bunch of players that want to play. So don't pick the first player that wants to play in your game if he or she is not going to be a great fit to your game. Be selective, because if you find a player that wants to open a dialogue with you as a GM and wants to go back and forth in a conversation and create a character that both himself or herself or you as a DM are both really excited about, it's going to add to an overall and much more enjoyable of an experience. Well, that's pretty much all I want to say on the subject, you know, and Wood, as always, great videos, love watching your stuff. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.